Hey, welcome back to Music Artists, the Vision and Decisions. I'm Tyler Norris.
I'm Eric Ferris.
And today we are going to be talking about what to do after you have finished recording, mixing, and mastering your song. Now you've got this beautiful song. It sounds amazing. Where do you go from here? Eric?
Probably start filling out like applications at like Target and stuff.
So the first thing I always recommend my artists or whoever records with us kind of do is register their song with a performing rights organization, a pro, which is like BMI, CSAC, or ASCAP. And I believe they're all free. I believe CSAC you have to be invited to. Is that correct, Eric?
You might. I think you have to be invited, but I don't think there's any like major requirements.
Okay.
Also, you're registering yourself as a writer with these organizations, and you're also cataloging the work and the art that you do with them. They become the administrators of keeping track of the rights for you.
Yeah, I mean, and it's free, so you might as well do it. It keeps track of your work. You can see your body of work so that if something, let's say your marketing and everything does work out in your favor and you start, becoming more popular, getting more streams, you're going to be covered by these companies to make sure you're getting paid.
Yeah, and they also, while they all pretty much do the same thing, there are other advantages. They each have programs that offer different events for artists to help them network or get their work out or work with other big-name artists that are using the same organization. So that would be something to look at if you're like wondering what's the difference between them. There may be some different times that they pay out. Because if you are making major moves, then you will get money from them as they're collecting on your rights.
Right.
And the time frame in which they send their payments out may be different between BMI and ASCAP and CSAC.
Yeah. So this is just kind of more of a surface. We're going to kind of cover, it's more of like a thought checklist for you guys to kind of go through. So we're not going to go into the super nitty gritty between the two or all three companies, but it's something that you should definitely do. And then you can compare all three companies and see which one really works best for you in the long run. And then what you want to do is sign up with a distribution company. And there are quite a few. To name a few is CD Baby, DistroKid, TuneCore. There might be other ones, but those are the main three that I know.
Those are the ones I'm more familiar with, either through myself or through the artists that I work with. And it used to be, back in the day, that your distributor had a network. They would actually, print the physical copies and all that stuff. Now it's digital, but they're still important. They're still distributing digital format across all the different streaming platforms. And it's nice to have one organization that handles all that for you.
And it's super easy. Like, it's really easy. When you upload a song, you can pretty much click which ones you want, what streaming services you want it to go through, Apple Music, Spotify, whatever one you want to do. I mean, you can do them all pretty easily. And I believe it's just a small fee, maybe yearly. It's not too bad.
It depends on your subscription. I mean, you could do it per song, or you could do it with the bigger subscription, where you would have. It'd probably be cheaper that way if you knew you're going to be putting out more music. When it comes to when you're at that point where you're going to start uploading, some things to think about. It asks a lot of questions, a lot of detailed questions about the type of music or the demographic that you're shooting for. So I would give that some thought. So you're uploading a song. I would think, okay, one of the power words they use is, I think it's like the vibe of the song or the feeling of the song. So think about other acts that might be similar to either your song or the demographic that you're going after. Just give it a little bit of thought, because you'll get to that point in the process, and you'll probably have to stop and think about it for a little while.
Right. And the other thing you're going to need when you're uploading to these distribution companies is some artwork for your song, your album. So that's definitely something that you need to consider. It's usually a 1,000 by 1,000 or 3,000 by 3,000 pixels, and you can either do headshots or different artwork. Like you can get an artist, you can commission an artist, but you want to make it look good because it does represent you, and people like visuals. So having your art represent your song just as much as the song itself is important. So I mean, it takes a little thought put into it. Instead of just uploading a random photo from your iPhone, it's going to be better if you actually consider what you're doing and maybe work with an artist or work with a photographer to get something that looks really nice.
Yeah. I remember as a teenager, we would go to the record store, me and my brother, we would pick records literally based on the cover. I mean, it's a little bit different because we had radio stations, but the type of music that I was listening to, which was mostly heavy rock at the time, we didn't necessarily catch the artist's name of the songs that we liked. So I remember we bought a couple of albums, and we bought it basically because the album looked cool. And we're like, okay, took a risk.
Right. I mean, it still is in effect today. I mean, people like good art when they're listening to a song. If it just looks like, unless you're going for that aesthetic, you could be going for the home video aesthetic.
Well, and even now, like on YouTube, I'll see thumbnails where it might be like the artwork, and I'm like, well, that's some cool artwork. Let me listen to this song. And,
right.
Otherwise, maybe I wouldn't have clicked on it because I wouldn't have recognized the name. So some thought needs to go into it, and hopefully some kind of thought that ties in with the song, that if you were asked in an interview about the artwork, you'd be able to give a good answer on.
Or go the complete opposite and just be like, I picked it because I like the art.
Yeah.
And then they're like, wait, that's it? And that's it? Not everything needs meaning, but it could have it.
True.
Also, when you upload to these distribution companies, a good kind of rule of thumb is to have 3 to 4 weeks of lead time. Kind of helps you generate buzz and just get your song out there, release content promoting your song. And while you're doing it, you can contact maybe curators of playlists. That's another thing, is to go through different playlists that your song could be on and try to see if your song would be placed on there. And it's a lot of work, and you'll get 95% rejections, but that 5%, if you get your song on a playlist, it could take off.
Yeah.
There's a lot of details online about how to do that, so we're not going to go into the nitty-gritty of that, but it is something that you could look into doing, and it's something simple that you could do without a huge marketing team.
You don't need a huge marketing team, but you do need a hustler's
You do
mentality.
have to hustle.
Yeah, and the time to do it, because it's mostly sending out messages and hoping for a response. So
Yeah, and a lot of those playlists on Spotify or Apple Music, I don't know if Apple Music has them, but definitely on Spotify, they have a YouTube playlist as well. So you can go and find them on YouTube, and it might be easier to DM them or find their information to get in contact, like an email or something, and be like, here's my song, I want to potentially get on your playlist. I had one artist that we work with who's pretty good at that. He said he spent a month for an hour a day just doing that. Just building a massive spreadsheet lists of different playlists and different curators, so that every time he releases a song, now he can just blast all those curators and email them and be like, here's my new song, blah, blah, blah. And it was a lot of work, but it's paid out, on the back end. And that's something he just did by himself. So here's where the real work starts. Once you finish your song, it's time to hustle.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good advantages today that don't involve having a whole team of people, where it wasn't like that before. But there's also advantages of having a whole team of people as well.
That is true. Yeah, there's definitely. Another thing to look into is a lot of people, if you've ever looked into an artist and someone's releasing something, they have something called a Linktree. It's another website that you can find, but it essentially consolidates all your streaming platforms, all your streaming platforms into one, so that when you send it out to somebody, if they're like, hey, here's my new song is coming out, they can follow you on that link tree, and whatever streaming service they subscribe to, it'll have your song on there. So that way you're not just sending out Spotify to someone that only listens to Apple Music or vice versa. It consolidates it all. It makes it easier for the listener. And the easier you make it for the listener to find your music, the better it's going to be for you. I mean, this goes without saying, too. Make sure your social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever else you need is kind of up to date and has your artist info, and you want to be releasing content. And that is a whole nother episode in of itself, but you definitely want to be releasing content, promoting your album release, your single release, interesting content, 15-second clips of the song with like the release date or cool pictures, just maybe info of you going live. The more you can engage with people on social media and your fans and your potential audience, the better it is going to get for you. And you want to make sure you have like a call to action on there. Like, here's my next song. Be sure to check it out when it comes out on this date. And it's interesting because with social media, there's just so much to do. And I know everybody knows, like, subscribe to blah, blah, blah. But people need to be told what to do. Otherwise, they're just going to look at it and be like, oh, that's a cool 10-second song, and then just move on. But if you're like, hey, the song comes out soon, check it out, they're going to be more likely to do it.
Yeah. It's a lot of building anticipation and just being very vigilant about always having some kind of content.
Yeah, you want to be pretty consistent with your content. I mean, I've seen everywhere, and this is probably something we will cover in another episode about how much content to put out, what type of content, different stuff. But I've seen information saying you should be releasing, 3 to 5 times a week. 5 times seems a lot to me, but maybe 3 times a week of interesting content and just being consistent. The more consistent you are with the content, the more likely you're going to get followers. If you're releasing content like once every 2 months, it's just not going to happen. People are going to lose interest unless you're Kanye West or something. It's just not. It's not going to work for you.
Yeah, I think there's a happy medium, and I think it is based on the fact if you're trying to bring on a lot of new fans and followers, or if you have a pretty good following already. I think all that plays into the mix of how active you need to be.
Yeah. And then kind of the last thing I feel like we really want to talk about, paid ads and paying people to kind of take over like a PR company is definitely important. And I think it is extremely beneficial. With paid ads, you almost have to know it. So the more you try to learn Facebook's ads or Instagram ads or Google ads, however you want to do it, you're going to probably need to take classes on that or find someone that's knowledgeable on that and learn how to do it correctly, because you can lose a lot of money down the drain real quick, but it can also be one of the quickest ways to grow yourself as an artist. There's a few PR companies online out there that can help you grow. I would definitely do your due diligence. And make sure these companies are reputable companies. I cannot speak again today. Make sure they're reputable companies. Do a little research into them, see what they can offer you, contact them and see how they can help you out. Again, it's a thing where you do have to be careful because there's a lot of scams out there. So before you throw money at anything, make sure you have done your research or you've talked to people that have used them.
Yeah. Read reviews.
It's
best to communicate with other people that have used them because it's the best way. It's better than a review because you don't necessarily know who left the review. But
that is right.
But there's a lot of good companies, and I think you need to most artists need to realize that you do have to have other people involved. I mean, some artists have made it purely because they had really good timing and good product as well. But there's a lot of people in a lot of different industries that are there to make your life easier. And it's certainly not free, but if, anything, you're going to have to spend some money to get some bigger returns. So
right. And make sure you're networking. So if you're going out and you're going to shows in your hometown, or you're like shows that is similar to your music, you could have a business card with a little QR code and be like, hey, I've got an album coming out. The more you network, the more you get to know people. And you have to do it correctly. Like, if people don't want anybody shoving stuff in their face, but if you talk to someone and you're sociable and you can become endeared to them, it's always good sometimes to be like, hey, I'm an artist as well. I would love to play a show. I think playing shows is very important if you can start looking in.
Just one 2 or 3 minute conversation could make a big difference when it comes to networking.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a lengthy one, but after people meet face to face, it usually opens a lot more doors.
That's true. But, I mean, going back to shows, you definitely want to try to look into getting shows booked. Even if it's simple shows, you can contact booking agents potentially in your city, or you can even contact the venues themselves and say, I'm a whatever kind of artist. I'm a pop artist, or I'm a indie rock artist who's local. Do you have any local shows? The more you play shows, the more you get comfortable playing shows. It's going to be better for you as an artist. And it also, if you're good enough and people like your music, you will develop a solid following in your town, which will then help other people to share your music and promote you. So asking other people to do that, friends and family and other fans to help promote you, is super beneficial, and that's kind of how you can make it without a label, is to get your fans to support you.
Mm-hmm. And it starts wherever you are. Exactly. That's where you build your foundation of fans.
So yeah, I mean, it's a lot to take in, and this episode, to be fair, is not really doing the amount of work that is going to have to go into it to be successful. It's not doing it justice, but it gives you a good idea of what you're going to be considering and working with. And it's a lot of information that you can think about. So there is a ton of great information out there about growing as an artist and marketing yourself. Again, with all things, make sure you educate yourself. Don't just pick something willy-nilly. You definitely want to do your due diligence with everything that's being involved, and do it right. But I think it is a good place to start and start considering.
I think I want to add one little nugget of thought. Nugget of thought. One little thought. As artists, musicians, songwriters, the romantic part about songwriting is actually songwriting and creating the song, and the process of recording the song, and that's all great, right? But that's not the entire pie chart of what happens, especially if you're not with the label. If you're with the label, they're doing the majority of this stuff on your behalf because they have an investment in you, and they will make money, which will justify the amount of time that they spend working for you. But if you're doing it by yourself, you may think of it like a pie chart, and you need to dedicate, for every song that you do, you need to dedicate specific time to all these things we've talked about, which include the marketing of your own product. And you, as an artist, I know a lot of times we don't want to spend our time doing that. We want to spend our time writing. But it's just important because the whole purpose is to expose your music to a wider audience. That really should always be one of your goals. You don't have to have a worldwide, huge, platinum selling records, but your goal should always be to expand your fan base. And so I think you have to set aside time, even if you have to schedule it. I know it works for me if I schedule something, even if I don't see it as fun as some of the other parts. It's necessary.
Yeah, I think that's well said. If you look at it like a business now, like you've done the fun part, you've done the baking of the cake. Now your cake needs to be fed to...
We have lots of cakes.
We have so much cake. I mean, we're just going back to what we said earlier. But I mean, you do have to look at it like a business at this point. If you're trying to be successful in getting your music out there and making it as an artist, if you're just trying to make music for fun, you're good. But this is for people that really want to be successful as an artist and to make a living off of it.
Yeah.
So yes, making music is a blast, and yes, recording it all and getting a beautiful song is amazing, but it doesn't stop there. Now your business mind has to kick in, and you have to start looking at it as marketing, promotion, like he said. And in fact, you can even do a lot of the content while you're recording. In fact, I would highly recommend doing that, taking photos in front of the mic, recording, going live when you're maybe doing your vocals. It can give you a ton of content to start bolstering up your audience. So,
yeah, or just you could just set up a camera and record video content while you're working on your song.
Exactly.
Throughout the process.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Music Artists, The Vision and Decisions. We are Maggio, MA6IO. You can find us at ma6io.com. That's maggio.com. And I'm Tyler Norris.
I'm Eric Ferris.
And you guys have a great week or month or whatever you need to be great. I hope it's great. Cheers.
Cheers.